What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Alonzo with GulfCoastSmoke.com, and today we're trimming brisket. So this is a video I've been wanting to do for a while now, and I felt like it was the perfect opportunity because I have to trim up a brisket that I need to start smoking early in the morning for a customer tomorrow. And that's the way I like to trim briskets. I like to do everything the night before, and then I have a little trick in a little bit to show you guys how you can keep your brisket nice, fresh, have no oxidizing on it without a vacuum sealer. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I want to preface this by saying I am not saying this is the best way to trim brisket. I'm not saying it's the worst way to trim brisket. It is how we trim brisket. So my wife and I, this is the way we like to do it, and we've been having really good results recently, and we think that part of it has to do with the way that we trim the brisket. I like to keep it pretty simple. I like to try and get the brisket as even as I can so it cooks evenly all the way through without, of course, taking chunks out of it. But if we do have anything that we're cutting off, we're always saving it. We're using it for burgers. We're using it to make brisket tallow or beef tallow or whatever everyone's doing now. We actually never put that in the wrap of our briskets, but there's a lot of uses for that elsewhere. So always, always, always try and use your trimmings for something. I want to make it simple. I want to try and do it with zero cutting. I can't promise, but I'm going to try and do it with zero cuts. I'm going to put some overhead action here. I'll get another camera and put it out in the distance so you guys can see a few different angles on how I'm trimming this, and we'll talk about it all the way through. Our tools today is I like to put a layer of foil down just in case there's anything that comes out of the brisket wrap. We can clean it up a little bit easier. We also have a cutting board. Under our cutting board, we have some anti-slip paper, or I don't really even know what that is, anti-slip foam something. And of course, we have our cutting board, and the most important tool is a sharp knife. This is not sponsored. This is a Victorinox, and I just got it from a local restaurant supply in Corpus where I live. So, you know, obviously you guys can use any one you want, but just make sure it's sharp. I think that's extremely important. Now, we're dealing with a 13.78 pound brisket today at $4.99 a pound for a prime. It came out to $68.76. Not sure if that matters to you guys or not, but I figured I'd tell you guys anyway. So, first things first, let's get this out of the package. Make a cut right there. That decal fat. Another important thing I forgot to mention, make sure to have paper towels on you. I had to cut away for just a second. Sorry about that. I forgot the paper towels and I needed to walk away for a second to the garage to grab them. So just make sure you have some on hand at all times because you don't want any of this stuff that's inside the brisket wrap to get anywhere in your kitchen. Obviously, we don't want any cross-contamination anywhere, so I like to try, and as I'm opening this, pat everything down just to make sure that there is no mess. So I'll flip this out. And I'll take this straight to the trash can. I'll be right back. Okay, now I washed my hands. I have some nitrile gloves on. Let's get to work. I actually prefer to start on top here. And the reason I do is because I like to take this decal out. And you know, obviously a great rule of thumb is, and you can see that that's just fat. There's nothing there that you're gonna wanna eat at all. The rule of thumb that I like to follow is you can take less away. It might take a little bit longer, but take less away, and over time you'll get a better product. So again, we're cutting straight fat out right now, and right now that's okay. Like I said, I have a different philosophy. Well, maybe not different, but I have my own philosophy on trimming briskets. So I start there, and that's all that I'm gonna do for now. Now, onto the back side. I feel around and I notice that all this fat right here is actually pretty soft. So I know that that's not very thick here. I might not have to do too much trimming down here. But I feel hard fat right here, and I feel a bunch of hard fat right here as well. So you'll see there's a little bit of this point meat right here, and I know based off of what I want to do, I'm gonna lose a little bit of this, and that's okay with me, because number one, you'll notice that it's kind of already flapping off, or I don't even know how to say it. It's kind of just not a part of the brisket. It doesn't keep it even. This flap will not cook the way I want it to. So first things first, I am going to trim this out. Now, this is meat, so I may want to keep that. Obviously, I definitely recommend keeping that. This is a good chunk of meat. This will make for some great sausage or brisket burgers. You can see the fat to meat ratio is really good. So obviously, you make yourself something great with that. So again, now I still feel some really hard fat here. I'm gonna take my knife and slowly but surely cut a little bit of fat away. And again, you can see I'm not hitting any meat, and I know I'm not going to, because that fat is still kind of hard right there. So again, this is what I do. I'm gonna take a little bit more of the meat out to get a little bit down on that fat. All right, and now it's starting to soften up just a little bit. So I know that I'm getting closer and closer to the point where I'm not gonna need to do too much more trimming. So I'm gonna take a little bit more of this point out right here, just to round it off and just to make everything look a little bit better. Great pieces of meat, do not throw this away. So now you can kind of already see a little bit of a shape coming to this brisket here. So I've already removed this, and that took all of what, a minute and a half, I don't know. It wasn't much, and you can see that there's really not that much meat exposed. So again, I think we're on the right path. Now here, I feel more hard fat, and I'm gonna start slowly but surely trimming this away as well. Again, this is all fat. I'm gonna move the brisket a little bit. Hopefully you guys are getting the shot and everything. This is all fat that we took over here. That was on this side of the brisket. Now, I'm seeing plenty of fat here that I just know is hard. It's not gonna render that well. So I'm gonna start cutting it out again, little by little. I'm not gonna overdo this because I do not want to waste anything on this brisket that I don't have to. Now you'll also notice that this is going pretty simple for me. This is going pretty easy. And the reason that is because this brisket came straight out of the refrigerator. You want to keep it cold. It's going to make everything a lot easier to trim. So here I noticed there's a little hard fat, and I can kind of tell by now, I've done so many of these, but you can kind of see where the hard fat is going to be, and you can kind of tell. All right, see there, no more hard fat. Right here, a little bit. So I'll just take a tiny bit more. And I'm not gonna lie to you, you can ask my wife, I'm pretty particular about a lot of things, and I can go a little overboard with briskets. I'm not gonna lie. I can go overboard with trimming, but this one, we're not going to today. So now, I wanna start shaping this thing. You see that it's kind of a little crazy, it's kind of a little everywhere. One of the things I'm noticing is over here, this is a real thin part of this flat, a really thin part. So I'm actually gonna rotate this around just to make it a little bit easier for me. This is really thin, so I'm gonna take my knife, I'm gonna cut it just a little bit. Look at the beautiful marbling in that flat. This brisket is gonna be really, really great for the customer tomorrow. And this is exactly why I buy prime briskets only whenever I'm giving them to people, when I'm cooking them for people. I think that good quality meat makes a huge difference. So now, over here, I just want to round off a little bit more. Doesn't have to be crazy. And one more time. Look at that marbling. That's going to be absolutely beautiful. So now you see a really good shape to this brisket. Everything's looking really nice. We're almost done. Last thing I want to do is over here on this end, I want to take off this part that oxidizes pretty often whenever it's in the wrap. You can see there that's a little bit discolored. Hopefully you guys can see that in the camera. And we definitely want the fresher parts of it to be exposed. So I'm just gonna get my knife, round everything off a little bit. Everything's looking good, everything's feeling good. No fat feels hard in too many areas. I'll take a little bit off here. And I'm not gonna lie, this is actually pretty, this is a pretty good brisket overall, right? So you're going to obviously have more difficult of a time with some over the others, but you know, like right there, I'm not gonna lie, that's a little bit hard to cut. It's a little slimy. So I took a little bit more than I would want to there normally, but it's okay. Overall, still all good. There we go. Looking really, really good. And now I'm just gonna start rotating the brisket around a little bit so we can see different parts of it. So now you'll notice that this looks overall pretty good right here. There's still a lot of fat right here. This is a lot of hard fat that I don't think is gonna render very well. See if you guys can see it a little bit better right there, right? So let's try and shape that out a little bit. And again, it's very, very easy for me. I'm not saying for you. It's very easy for me to go overboard with these. So at some point, we obviously need to stop. You can see a little gash here, no big deal. And I don't mind exposing point at all. I actually do it pretty much every single time. My daughter said that she has to go potty, so we might take a quick break from this, but we'll be right back. All right, and yeah, so I really, like I said, I know I said I wasn't gonna get too overboard with it, but I really do not like all of this fat here. I really, really don't. So I am actually gonna take a little bit more of this point out because I personally just do not like all this fat here. Like I said, I'll keep it as minimal as I can, but I'm not afraid to do this. And like I said, if you guys think that this is the wrong way to do it, leave a comment below what you would do and let me know what I'm doing wrong. I'm sure there's a lot that I'm doing wrong, but again, this is just how I do it. And I've been wanting to make a video on this for a while. So kind of punch it down a little bit. All right. Sorry about that. Just had to take out my frustration on the brisket. And we're just about done. So now all I'm looking for is 1/4 inch of fat throughout the whole brisket. And I'll show you guys a little thing that I do that's definitely overboard, but you know, I do it anyway. So that looks okay. I need to take a little bit more off right there. So this part, sometimes it's kind of like leathery, and I think that's a little harder to trim, but take your time. looks pretty good. There might be a little spot right here I can get a little more of. All right, now up top, if you want to, take off some of this silver skin here. I don't think it's the hugest deal ever, but definitely doesn't look bad if you do it. Again, sharp knife is gonna help you a lot. This stuff, by the time we're here, the brisket's definitely not as cold, so keep that in mind, you know, as things are kind of getting a little more difficult. This brisket's definitely not as cold as it was the second we took it out of the refrigerator. So that looks pretty good. Try and take a little more right here, a little more right here, just because I'm being kind of OCD about it. And now this last part I'm going to show you, seriously, you do not have to do. Like I said, I am just kind of really weird when it comes to brisket. So 1 second, I actually like to get scissors and cut around the edge of the brisket to round it off. Sorry about that. The battery actually ran out on the camera. We didn't realize it for about 30 seconds. So I did trim a little bit extra, but just with the scissors. So as I was saying before the camera died, I do like to do this. I like to get the edges and trim them. And as I was saying, literally right before the camera died, I believe, because I went back and looked at the footage, I might be biased, but I mean, I honestly think this makes the brisket look so much better just from rounding the edges, right? And I'm not even done yet. So I have little pieces right there that I can kind of cut. And like I said, this is 100% just me being very, very picky and very particular. But I'll just go ahead and round out everything on the brisket, front, now back. So like I said, I mean, you can kind of see like my knife marks there. And whenever I round it out, it just looks a little bit better. I'm all about presentation. You eat with your eyes first, in my opinion. So it's kind of why I like to do that. But again, not necessary. I'm not saying you guys need to do that or anything like that, but if you ever want to try it out, let me know what you think. So let's just finish this up. I know I'm rotating the brisket around a lot. I'm sorry about that, but hopefully you guys catch the drift. Catch my drift, I think is the saying. There we go. And so that to me is a perfectly trimmed brisket. Like I said, this is not the best way to do it. It is not the only way to do it. It is just the way we like to do it. And we've been getting consistent results with our cooks that we've been giving to customers. You know, we've been catering, I don't want to say a lot of events, but we've been catering some events and we've just gotten really great feedback on our brisket. And I think it has to do with the fact that our trim is simple. We make the brisket as evenly shaped as possible. And you can see here, so if you look at it from here, the thickness all the way through is really, really nice. So this brisket's gonna cook evenly, and it's gonna be very, very simple to make sure that it's probe tender all the way through. So you can also look at it from here. That's just a good looking brisket. So one of the things that I myself actually used to always think is if a brisket doesn't fold, it's not a good brisket. There's too much hard fat into it. And I think that that's wrong. I honestly have changed my stance on that because you can trim your brisket and you can make it good on your own. Now, obviously, if you see a huge chunk in there that's like disgusting, you don't want it, don't pick that brisket. But don't turn away from a brisket either if you see that it won't bend in half. That's something that me, in the past, I 100% used to think. And now I trim the brisket. I make the brisket how I want. And every single time, it folds in half. So, like I said, if you guys learn one thing from this video, I've accomplished something. I hope you guys enjoyed a video like this. I know we didn't cook anything, but I wanted to show you guys my technique on how I do things, and hopefully, like I said, you learned a thing. As always, I really appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next one.